Back now on America's Forum at the bottom of the hour. Time for a check of news, and look who's here to offer it. It's our contributor, Francesca Page.
Hi there, JD. Let's get to our top stories. President Obama admits that his administration does not have a strategy on how to deal with ISIS. As Obama works on a strategy, he's sending U.S. Secretary John Kerry to the region. Kerry's job is to build a coalition of strong regional partners to help combat ISIS militants. And in Minneapolis, American ISIS militant Douglas McCain, who died fighting for ISIS in Syria, has also had a best friend and classmate who died fighting for another terrorist group. Terrorist groups have been known to target young men in Minneapolis, a city with a small Somali population. And today, the United Nations is trying to find out how to deal with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The UN meeting came hours after 2 columns of Russian tanks and military vehicles fired missiles from Russia at a Ukraine border post, then moved into the country. Meanwhile, in West Africa, the Ebola crisis is getting worse every day. Dr. Tom Frieden, the director of the CDC, is visiting Liberia, where health workers are struggling to contain the virus. Ebola killed more than 1,500 so far.
Francesca, you offer those headline stories, but I know you've been working on an in-depth report comparing ISIS to another infamous regime of the past.
That's right, JD. It has been said the line between the Nazis and ISIS is a fine one. They might be persecuting different groups, but there appear to be numerous similarities between these groups. Many would argue that the recent beheading of American journalist James Foley has awakened the world to the implications of ignoring extremist groups like ISIS.
Earlier today, I spoke to the Foleys and told them that we are all heartbroken at their loss and joined them in honoring Jim and all that he did. Let's be clear about ISIL. They have rampaged across cities and villages, killing innocent, unarmed civilians in cowardly acts of violence.
Many have drawn a comparison between the Nazis and ISIS when it comes to their motivations, ideologies, and fanatical beliefs that they represent a superior group of human beings. While the new world order that ISIS wants to create is not one based on race, like the Nazis, they are seeking to create a world only for those who embrace their brand of Islam, and it would appear at any cost. Robo spoke recently to Newsmax TV anchor Steve Malzberg.
They're beheading children. They're hanging the men, they're raping the women. It's not horrific, there's not even words for it. I mean, with the death stamp, the red death stamp, the Arabic letter N that they're putting on Christians' houses as Nazarenes. I mean, this is so similar to the Holocaust of the Jewish community during World War II. It's just amazing that so many people have been silent. Like you said, the overall media only recently have said, hey, there's a big issue here, there's a genocide going on.
It has been pointed out that the only difference is instead of flying a red flag with the swastika, they carry a black flag, thinking they're all powerful, just like the Nazis did.
Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. You outlined some of those areas of striking similarity, deadly similarity. What else do you see? What other parallels do you see?
Well, the main similarities between these two groups is the ideologies of hate and exclusivism and fanatical beliefs that they have the right to decide who should live, JD, and who should die. It's a genocidal agenda that they share. And, you know, like I said, this exclusivist world order that they share is a really scary part of this. And I think you're right to look at history, because if this is essentially history repeating itself, then we really do need to go back and educate ourselves with what happens when mass genocide goes on.
And you can think about, sad to say, other genocides, other places. For example, what transpired with the Khmer Rouge and in Cambodia. Absolutely. Following the departure of American forces from Southeast Asia. Nobody's trying to argue to refight the Vietnam War, but the absence of American forces stepping in, and we've seen other actions taken in other places, but the dimension of ISIS utilizing the social media to not only attract volunteers, but to put their horrific acts out for all to see. It's some say it's a psychological warfare that can be very effective. You think it would strengthen Western resolve to combat it, but thus far that has yet to be expressed by government officials here, constitutionally charged with coming up with a strategy to take on ISIS.
Right, and bringing it to date, yesterday's video, which we saw, which appeared to show, ISIS fighters humiliating and massacring over 160 Syrian troops, and then Obama's reaction to this, which is, we do know about it, but we don't have a strategy yet. And with us coming onto the 13th anniversary of 9/11 now, that's a very frightening non-commit there, I think, on that sense.
There are a lot of people who say we need human intelligence, people on the ground, to see things with our eyes and report back to our national security apparatus. But I've got to tell you, Francesca, it looks like you really get a good start on social media. We saw the horrific March of Doom for the Syrians that you made reference to just a second ago as you were talking about it. And apparently, a lot of the young Americans have gone on social media making no secret of their embrace of ISIS, basically setting up what appears to be a type of recruiting film.
And it's scary because it's such a broad spread recruiting. And the thing is, I think, coming back to social media, it's being used as a tool for religious persecution. And when we look at why these genocidal agendas come about, JD, I think from a philosophical stance, we need to look at, hang on, it's coming from religious persecution, which is a result of what? A result of misunderstanding. And so it's this misunderstanding between us that's causing this religious persecution. So I think a little bit more needs to be put into why this is coming about and how to resolve it.
Well, whether it is a misunderstanding or just mischaracterization of someone's intent or misdirection, something we'll have to consider in the days ahead. Francesca, thanks for your insights, and we're coming back with more on America's Forum.